Hello all. So today we'll start a new topic, that is modularization techniques in ABAP. First we'll try to understand what do you mean by modularization. Modularization nothing but instead of writing a complex program, right? We divide that program into multiple reusable blocks. Okay? So we are not going to include the complete code in a single program. We are going to divide that into reusable modules where we can reuse in different applications or different programs. So it will reduce the it will reduce the duplicate code, right? It will improve the maintainability and also it will improve the readability of the program. So you can easily understand the program. Instead of writing all 1,000 or 10,000 lines in the same program, we are going to break that program into different reusable blocks, right? For example, let's say it's a program for some tax. So we are writing a program for tax calculation, right? So it contains different kinds of taxes, indirect tax, income tax calculation, and different tax logics. Instead of including all those different tax calculation logics in the same program, what we'll do, we'll create one separate module for example, GST calculation. Sorry. We'll create separate module for income tax calculation. We'll create different module for import tax calculation. Now what we are going to do, instead of writing this logic inside the main program, we are going to call these modules wherever required in the program.
Hello.
Yes, yeah, sorry. So instead of writing a complete logic for tax calculation, let's say we're creating a program for tax calculation, right? So instead of writing complete logic inside the single program, what we'll do? We'll create separate modules. One for a GST calculation, other module for income tax calculation, and different module for import tax calculation. Instead of writing directly in the program, what we are going to do? We're going to call these modules in our main program. Okay? Code will not be available in the main program. Code will be available in these reusable modules. Right? Same module can be called, the same modules can be called in a different application. Depends on the scenario. Let's say here we need only income tax calculation in the second application. So instead of writing that income tax calculation separately in the program, what we are going to do? Simply, we call this income tax calculation logic in the program, second program, right? Let's say we are calling, similarly, we are calling in three different programs. Let's assume this is the third program where we have similar requirement where we need to calculate income tax and import tax. Two different tax calculations we have to do in the third program, right? Are we going to write code directly in the third program? No, we are not going to write again. We are just going to call these reusable modules in our program, right? Let's say there is a change in tax calculation, income tax calculation. Let's assume there is a change in income tax calculation due to some regulatory changes or policy changes from the government. Now we have to apply those changes in our applications, right? Yes or no? Our program should also calculate as per the new changes, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now, in how many programs you need to change? For example, if you need to apply some changes to the income tax calculation, how many programs you need to change in our current scenario?
Three.
Income tax one.
We are calling it in three different programs, but you don't need to change three different programs. Simply apply that logic to this reusable module, which we are using for income tax calculation, right? Sorry. So automatically, the same logic will be applied to all programs wherever we are calling this reusable module. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
So we have different types of reusable modules that is called modularization techniques. So what are they? Few modularization techniques we use in multiple programs. Few modularization techniques are local to the same program where we can call multiple times only within the same program, right? But few modularization techniques are global. We can call in a different programs. First, let's see what are the different modularization techniques. Include include program is one type of modularization technique. It is global. That means you can call this modularization technique in multiple programs. You can reuse in multiple programs. Where we create the include programs? In SE 38. Are you aware of creating a program?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How to, in which transaction code usually we create a program?
SC38 only.
SE 38. Include programs where we are going to create what type of program we are going to select when we are creating the programs, right? What type of program we are selecting?
Include.
As of now,
SQ.
we are selecting executable program. So what is the difference between executable program and include program? Executable program can execute on its own. It contains a selection screen. It can execute independently. But what about include program? Include program is for reusability. It's a reusable module which can execute only with another executable program. It cannot execute independently. When you add this include program to the executable program, then only it will execute. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So include programs are the reusable programs contains ABAP statements cannot execute independently. Whatever the logic available in include program, we cannot execute independently. Okay. But how can we execute this logic inside the include programs? When we add this include program to a executable program, then only we can execute the include programs. We cannot directly execute include programs. Okay. Do we have selection screen for include programs?
No.
Can we define parameters in include program?
No, cannot accept inputs.
We can define parameters. Please observe carefully. We can define parameters and select options. But in the other word, we are saying that selection screen is not allowed. It will allow defining parameters and selection screens. But when you try to execute the include program, it won't to display any selection screen. When those parameters and select options are going to work, when you add this include program to a executable program, then that executable program selection screen will use the parameters defined inside include program. Okay,
Okay,
is your
sir.
one clear? But it won't contain the selection screen. When you add this to another executable program, that executable program selection screen will use parameters or select options available in the include program.
Include.
Okay. So we use dot include keyword to add this to another executable program or other include program. We can also add one include program in another include program. Okay, or we can add include programs to the executable program. So when you add one include program to another include program, again we are just reusing the code, but it cannot execute independently. But when you add this to the executable program, then it makes any difference. Okay, it will execute that whatever the reusable logic inside the executable program. Sorry, include program. These are global or local.
Global.
These are
Global.
global. You can call in multiple programs. Okay, you can reuse in any number of programs. But make sure when you are changing, check the dependencies. If you apply changes to the one include program, it's going to impact all other include executable programs. We have another type of modularization techniques. What are they? Subroutines. Subroutines are local units can be called. So these are local reusable units can be called multiple times within the same program. We cannot call subroutines created in one program, right, in another program. We cannot reuse them in another program, but you can reuse or call multiple times within the same program. Okay. So we cannot pass parameters to include programs as inputs, right? Yes or no? Include programs are not going to accept the inputs, right? It won't generate any
Yes.
selection screen. For subroutines, we can pass we can pass inputs to the subroutine and return the output, but only within the same program. So we call them as parameters, subroutine parameters we can pass. Import and export, right? So we can pass inputs and return the output using subroutines. Okay, how to create a subroutine? Perform is the statement to call the subroutine, and here we pass inputs. Before this, using, we use a keyword using these inputs, right? And changing, changing means return the output. Okay, this is how we call the subroutine. This is to call the subroutine, but how to define the subroutine? We define the subroutine. Perform, for example, perform tax calculation. This is the subroutine name. How to define the subroutine? Form tax calculation using, if there is a input, and changing output one, and form. Within the form and end form, we write the calculation or any business logic. Okay, this perform can be called multiple times. This perform can be called multiple times within the same program. There is one rule you have to remember when you are defining the subroutines. Where should we keep this subroutine definition in the program?
Last.
At the
After all
execution.
executable statements. You should keep subroutine definition after all executable statements at the end of the program. Okay, is everyone clear? And this is to call the subroutine. You can call multiple times within the same program. Okay, passing these inputs and outputs are optional. Okay, passing inputs and outputs are and returning the output are optional. You may or may not pass the inputs. Depends on the scenario. Okay, is everyone clear?
Yes, sir. There are two other modularization techniques called function modules and classes, right? Function modules and class methods. We'll see that later. First, we'll try to create an include program. Let's try to modularize our existing program. Okay, let's try to modularize our existing program. Okay, if case do while. Okay, let's take this example. How many different types of logics we are doing here? We are using
one logic using if statement and another using case statement, another using do, and one using while loop. Shall we modularize this? Instead of directly writing the code inside this, shall we modularize this statement into different modularization blocks? Let's say we are going to keep if statement in a modularization unit. Go to SC38. How to create a include program? Provide the name, create. This is one way of creating include program. Go to SC38, provide the name and create, save. Sorry, what is the type we need to select? Executable or include?
Include.
We need to select include. Save the program. Now, what I am going to do, I'll, I'll copy and paste the logic here. Activate the program. Program is activated. Now, how to call this include program in our main program? I'll remove this.
Dot include.
Dot include and program name. Now, whatever the logic you have added in the this include program will be automatically available in the executable program. Okay. Why it is not detecting this? Let me reopen the screen. Go to SC38 again. Not this. Change. Now check. Hmm. So whenever you get this kind of refresh errors, right? Open the application again. Open the program again. Okay. Now one include program created for if statement. I'm not keeping all the complex logic inside the main program, right? Now if you see, there is only one line for if statement logic, right? Now, what about case statement? I want different include program to maintain case statement. How to create one more include program? Tell me the steps.
Go to SC38.
Hmm. There is another way of creating include program. You don't need to go to SC38. Just copy this.
28 years.
Hmm. Dot include. Provide some meaningful name for the program. ZDemo case. Okay. Double click on the program and we are creating here itself. You don't need to even select a type of the program. Save it as a local object. Paste the logic whatever you want to keep inside this or write your own logic here. Okay. Pretty printer. Activate the include program. Go back. Now your include program will be part of the main program. Okay. Is everyone clear? Okay. How to create one more include program? Dot include. Do loop. Okay. Keep this logic inside the do loop. Okay. Similarly for while loop. What is the difference between do and while?
Based on condition, while
Do loop is not based on any condition. It's based on number of iterations.
it will
But while loop is based on condition. So while loop will execute as long as the condition is true, right? That's why don't pass the condition which is always true, because while loop is not going to end, right? It will go into infinite loop. Yes or no? Now observe the program. It looks simple, right? Instead of having all different logics and statements in the main program. Now, if someone looking at the program, if they want to try to understand the program logic, it is very simple, right? They can go to if statement and understand the logic. It improves the readability, right? It looks simple and readable, right? Instead of having all thousands of lines in the main program. Yes or no?
yes.
Now,
Yes.
let's try to modularize these parameters also. If you want to reuse the same selection screen, if you want to reuse the same selection screen in multiple programs, what you need to do? Keep that in a include program. Remove here, keep the parameters here, activate. If you want, you can design the selection screen. I'm saying that include programs cannot accept a selection screen. If you try to execute, from where it is coming from? It is coming from the main program. Let me comment here. Try to open in a separate program. Say include program. So we have to specify in the main program. We cannot directly execute this, right? But you enable here, activate the program, and now try to execute. Still, it's not giving. But when you execute here, it will take the selection screen parameters from the include program because you have added it to the which one executable program. Okay, so you can reuse the same selection screen in multiple programs. For example, I'm creating one more include program, sorry, one more executable program. Provide some name. Here, my requirement is to add two numbers where I need a selection screen with two parameters, right? Instead of creating a parameter, what I'll do, instead of creating another selection screen, I'll just call the include program here. Execute. Now, the same selection screen will be part of your new program, right? So include program can be reused multiple times in different programs using dot include. Okay, is everyone clear on this? You can keep select statements, you can keep loop statements, read statements, any logic inside the include programs. Okay, so going forward, try to modularize your program using include programs. Keep selection screen in one include, data selection logic in one include, validations, selection screen validations we are doing right in net selection screen event. Keep those in a separate include program so that you can reuse in different programs. Okay, is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.